Frank Sinatra's fists were clenched so tight the knuckles had turned white. The MGM soundstage had gone completely silent. Marlon Brando stood inches away from him and didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't raise his hands. "Hit me," Brando said quietly, "right here, and then explain it to the studio." In that moment, everyone on set thought they were about to witness a fight. What they actually witnessed was something far colder. The trouble started on day 3. They were shooting a nightclub scene, simple blocking, 2 pages of dialogue. Should have taken an hour. 4 hours later, they were on take 12, and Frank Sinatra's patience had run out. Marlon Brando kept stopping the scene, asking to start over, saying he hadn't found it yet. Each time, Sinatra's jaw got tighter. Each time, the crew got quieter. Sinatra didn't like rehearsal. He was a one-take performer who trusted instinct, and he expected filming to work the same way. Show up, hit your mark, say the line, move on. That's how professionals worked. Brando was different. Brando needed takes, multiple takes. He needed to find the character through repetition and exploration, to discover the truth of a moment by living in it repeatedly. It was method acting, and Sinatra found it pretentious and infuriating in equal measure. Joseph L. Mankiewicz, the director, was already feeling pressure from MGM. The production was behind schedule, and these 2 stars were the reason. He pulled Sinatra aside during a break while Brando stayed on set, sitting alone, preparing. "Give him time, Frank," Mankiewicz said quietly. "He works differently, but he delivers." Sinatra lit a cigarette. "He's holding up the entire production because he can't remember his lines. He knows his lines. He's finding the performance." "He's wasting everyone's time," Sinatra said, loud enough for crew members to glance over. "This method actor horseshit is disrespectful to everyone standing around waiting." Mankiewicz didn't argue. The production was behind, and Brando's process was the main reason. But Brando was also delivering performances unlike anything anyone had seen, and Mankiewicz knew those performances would define the film. That didn't help him manage the tension building on set. By the second week, Sinatra's irritation evolved into mockery. Between setups, he'd do impressions of Brando for the crew. The mumbling, the intense stares, the dramatic pauses. "I'm searching for the truth of the moment," Sinatra would whisper theatrically, and some crew members would laugh, nervously or genuinely. Brando never responded. He'd hear it, see it happening, and simply turn back to his script or walk to his trailer. The silence made Sinatra push harder. One afternoon, after Brando stopped a scene for the 15th time, Sinatra spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "You know the difference between a professional and a method actor? A professional shows up prepared. A method actor shows up and wastes everyone's time finding himself." A few people laughed. Most didn't. The set had divided into camps, though no one said it out loud. Older crew members, the ones who'd worked in the studio system for decades, aligned with Sinatra's view. Get in, do the work, get out. That's how movies got made. Younger ones, who'd seen Brando in Streetcar and Waterfront, understood what he was trying to do, recognized that his process, however inconvenient, produced something extraordinary. But none of them wanted to be caught in the middle when this broke. And everyone knew it would break. The question wasn't if, but when. Mankiewicz felt it too. He'd directed difficult actors before, managed egos, navigated studio politics. But this was different. This wasn't artistic disagreement or creative friction. This was personal animosity building towards something he couldn't control. He tried talking to both men separately, tried to find common ground, tried to create buffer zones in the shooting schedule so they wouldn't be on set together more than necessary. Nothing worked. The hatred was too deep, too fundamental. Sinatra saw Brando as everything wrong with modern acting: pretentious, self-indulgent, disrespectful to the craft and the people working around him. Brando saw Sinatra as a remnant of old Hollywood, shallow, unwilling to dig deeper, content with surface-level performance because it required less work and kept everyone comfortable. Neither man was entirely wrong, and that's what made it dangerous. Brando still said nothing publicly about Sinatra's mockery. He finished takes, walked to his trailer, closed the door. But the crew noticed small things: the way his jaw would tighten when Sinatra made another joke, the way he'd pause just for a second before responding to direction, The way his eyes would track Sinatra across the soundstage when he thought no one was watching. Sinatra noticed too, and it emboldened him. He started pushing harder, making comments not just about Brando's process, but about Brando himself, about his weight, about his mumbling, about the way he dressed. Small digs delivered with a smile, but everyone heard the edge underneath. By the third week, the atmosphere on set had become toxic. People chose their lunch tables carefully. Conversations stopped when the wrong person approached. The makeup and wardrobe departments worked out separate schedules for the two stars. Even the studio executives who visited set could feel it, that electric tension that preceded violence or breakdown or both. Wednesday, October 19th, 1955. They were shooting a confrontation scene between the two characters, a moment requiring tension and chemistry. Mankiewicz had blocked it carefully, knowing this scene could save or doom the film. 3 hours in, 17 takes. Brando kept stopping, adjusting, asking to go again. On take 18, Sinatra's patience shattered. Brando raised his hand mid-line. "Hold on, I'm not—" "No." Sinatra's voice cracked across the soundstage like a gunshot. He stepped out of his blocking, moving toward Brando instead of away. "No more holds, no more I'm not ready. We've done this scene 17 goddamn times."
Mankiewicz stood from his chair. "Frank, I'm done, Joe." Sinatra didn't take his eyes off Brando. "Done waiting while he figures out how to say a simple line. This is a movie, not a therapy session."
Brando looked at him, expression unchanged. "I'm finding the character." "You're wasting my time," Sinatra said, and there was something dangerous in his voice now, something that made the crew step back collectively. The soundstage went silent. No one moved. The camera operator's hand hovered over his equipment but didn't touch it. Mankiewicz stood frozen between his stars and crew in a moment he had no idea how to navigate. "You think this method bullshit makes you a better actor?" Sinatra continued, his voice rising. "It makes you a pain in the ass, that's what it makes you." Brando stood slowly from his position in the scene. He didn't move towards Sinatra, didn't match the aggression, just stood. "If you have a problem with how I work, we can discuss it. I don't want to discuss it. I want you to do your job like a professional." "I am doing my job," Brando said, voice still even. "No, you're making everyone stand around while you play artist. There's a difference." Brando's jaw tightened slightly, the first crack in his composure. "They hired me for my process. They hired you to make a movie, not waste time and money indulging yourself." Sinatra moved closer now, not touching, but closing distance to something uncomfortable, confrontational. "You think you're better than me? That it? You think your New York theater bullshit makes you a real actor and I'm just some crooner who got lucky?" Mankiewicz found his voice. "Frank, Marlon, let's take a break and—" "Stay out of this, Joe," Sinatra said without looking at him. His eyes were locked on Brando, and there was something in them the crew recognized. Not just anger, threat. Brando met his gaze without flinching. "I don't think I'm better than you. We work differently, that's all." "Bullshit. You look down on everyone who doesn't worship your precious method. Let me tell you something about your method. It's selfish, it's inconsiderate, and it's amateur hour dressed up as genius." The soundstage was so quiet people could hear their own breathing. This had crossed a line everyone recognized. "Are we done?" Brando asked quietly. "No," Sinatra said, stepping even closer, almost chest to chest now. "What's that? Do you think you're untouchable? You think because you won an Oscar and changed acting or whatever they say about you, you can do whatever you want. But you're on my set now, in my town, and I'm tired of your act." Brando looked at him for a long moment. "Your set?" Sinatra repeated. "My town. This is an MGM soundstage, Frank, not Vegas. You don't own anything here except your performance, same as me." Sinatra's hands curled into fists at his sides. Small movement, but everyone saw it. The energy shifted instantly. This wasn't just ego anymore. Mankiewicz stepped forward. "Gentlemen, I think—" "You think you're tough?" Sinatra cut him off. voice low and dangerous, eyes still on Brando. "You think playing tough guys makes you tough?" Brando didn't move, didn't step back, didn't shift into defense, just stood there. "I don't think I'm tough, Frank. I don't think about it at all. Maybe you should start." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact. You keep disrespecting me, disrespecting this production. There are going to be consequences." And that's when Brando smiled. Not big, just a slight curve at the corner of his mouth. But Sinatra saw it, and it enraged him. "You think this is funny?" Sinatra's voice rose. "You think I won't?" "Hit me," Brando said, quietly, cutting him off. The words were soft, but they carried across the silent soundstage. "Hit me, Frank, right here, in front of everyone, and then explain it to the studio." The silence that followed was absolute. Sinatra stood there, fists clenched, face flushed, staring at Brando. And Brando stared back, completely calm, waiting. The calculation was instant and visible. Sinatra was smart enough to understand exactly what Brando had done. He'd made the consequences explicit. If Sinatra threw that punch, MGM would get involved. The press would find out. The film would be jeopardized. And Sinatra, no matter how connected, would be the aggressor who lost control, who attacked a colleague over professional disagreement. Brando would be the victim, the one who stayed calm, the one who did nothing wrong. It was a trap laid out in plain sight, daring him to step into it, and they both knew that if he did, he'd lose more than this confrontation. Sinatra's fists unclenched, slowly. The tension in his shoulders released incrementally, his breathing evening out as rage receded into something colder, more controlled. He took one step back. That was enough. "We're done here," Sinatra said, voice hard but no longer loud. He turned to Mankiewicz. "I need a break. Call me when he's ready to work like a professional." He walked off the set. Didn't look back at Brando, didn't look at anyone. Just left. The crew stood frozen, no one sure what had just happened or what it meant. Brando stood there for another moment, then sat back down in his mark, in the exact position the scene required. "Should we reset?" Mankiewicz stared at him, still processing. "You want to keep shooting?" "We're here," he said simply. "Might as well use the time." They didn't shoot that day. Mankiewicz called it, sent everyone home, spent the evening trying to figure out how to salvage his production. But the next morning, both men showed up on time, professional, polite. They hit their marks, said their lines, finished their scenes. The mockery stopped. The tension remained, but cold now instead of hot, controlled instead of explosive. They never spoke about what happened, not to each other, not to Mankiewicz, not to the crew. It became an understood thing, a line drawn that would not be crossed again. Guys and Dolls finished shooting on schedule. Reviews were mixed. Some critics loved Brando's performance, others thought Sinatra was miscast. Neither man attended the premiere together. Years later, a journalist asked Sinatra about it. "Frank, rumors of tension on that set. Any truth?" Sinatra lit a cigarette. "Marlon and I had different approaches, that's all. Nothing more. Nothing worth talking about. But you two supposedly almost came to blows." Sinatra smiled without warmth. "Almost doesn't count. Next question." No one asked Brando directly. They tried in roundabout ways, but Brando had perfected non-answers. "Frank and I worked together. It was fine. He's talented." That was all, and his tone made clear the subject was closed. But people who were there remembered. They remembered Sinatra's clenched fists, Brando's smile, how one sentence diffused a situation that could have destroyed careers and a production, how Brando won without throwing a punch, without raising his voice, without doing anything except stating a fact and letting Sinatra do the math. On a Wednesday afternoon in October 1955, Frank Sinatra's fists unclenched. He stepped back once, told Mankiewicz he needed a break, and walked off without looking at anyone. Marlon Brando sat back down in his mark. "Should we reset?" he asked. No one on that soundstage forgot what had just happened. Not because a punch was thrown, but because it wasn't.